terms of like 2 pages, double spaced, but they grade them hard.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm so glad I'm not in school.
Essays are my least favorite thing ever. Even if
Is
they're
someone
just
else
like
on the call?
Yeah, I got through school without having to write too many essays.
That's why I'm a CS major.
Yeah, that's another thing too. I did not want to, after high school, I did not want to write.
All right. Is there any? So what I'd like to start doing this week is getting you guys ramped up on what our infrastructure looks like and how it works and what we're doing and why we're doing it and all those types of things. So as you move into development positions, you know what's going on. But even for you, Ashlyn, to understand like how a more complete system, like a larger enterprise system, what that looks like, it's going to be useful, I think. So we're going to walk through that. Unless there's something that's more pressing. Do you guys have anything where you're like, man, we're just really stuck on this thing, or
anything you're really interested in.
what's that?
Or anything that we're really interested in.
Yeah.
No, personally.
Okay.
All right. Let's do it. All right. So I'm gonna use the dry erase board a lot, so you guys want to swing a little bit. Okay. So can somebody, and part of this is just you may not get it perfect, but just because you guys are new to this company and what we do, and we haven't talked a whole lot about our actual product this summer, can somebody try to explain what we do here?
Good question.
From my understanding, you help universities be able to better work some of their processes in terms of like admissions, get in contact with prospective students, keep them up to date with where they're at in the process. If they're like, they started the application, they haven't finished it, you can send those students a message. You use that. You guys get groups of people. The school provides you with files with groups of people who you message, who you send out those campaigns to. And then from there, those students can then go into an app that the school probably has from you guys, or I guess outside, depending on their status, where they can do, where those students can do actions based on that. Equally, you have stuff for admitted students. If the students haven't signed up for courses yet, or they fall into some category, the school can use your service to contact those students through the message, through SMS, and then connect them also into the app.
Yep.
And this helps with just engagement and all the other metrics.
So we're going to go through a few things. Let's start with, so that's great, Daniel. That's very well put. We're through this week, we're going to go through a lot of things. So we're going to go through the historical process by which we pivoted multiple times and ended up where we are. So that you understand sort of the legacy systems that exist. And so some of the conversations that you'll have will be about things like ICE or course planning or things, and you're going to be like, what is that nonsense? That's not what you guys said you did at all. It's because we don't do it anymore, but there are clients that still have some of those features, and we're trying to walk them off of that slowly. But those clients pay a lot more money than our current clients. So the legacy clients pay about 10 times as much as our current clients do for each sort of software package. So some of those things, we don't have that many of them left who are on that full package suite anymore. But they do still exist, and so we still run into them, we still do some maintenance on it. We're going to mostly focus on what we do now. We will go through what is currently in use as the prototype, and then also what the sort of equivalent better version is on beta, so that you guys can see. Again, I think it's useful to understand like how the current team using the current prototypes see things versus where things are moving. There are some differences. So there's some communication issues, which you've seen already in like office hours and stuff about like how we're moving from the old product to the new product. So we'll walk through those pieces. I want to give you guys some login credentials so that you have an opportunity to play with these things outside of these conversations. So the first thing I want to do, if you go to school.stage.fullmeasureed.com. So, and this is the staging environment, so nothing very real happens here. But there is a pretty big sandbox of stuff to play around with. So you can log in as Emily plus Hope. And then the password is just password. Alright, and then go ahead and create open up another window, tab window, whatever, and go to app.stage.fullmeasure.io. Turn it into mobile view. So that's what we've been doing most of the development so far. And then refresh the page so it's actually at the platform. So actually, yeah, there's a bug happening with the guest student stuff, but if you click on view profile, actually click on switch users. Alright, and then click sign out. Create an account. You can use your Google account if you want, but I would recommend that you create a full measure account and just make things a little bit cleaner.
What do you mean issue?
So click switch user and then sign out. And create an account. Create one.
Real email?
Yeah, but that's not. You're logging in, but.
Oh, awkward.
Duh. So create one.
You have to try a couple times.
Yeah, there's a bug I think it's working on right now. Go back to switch users again. Sign out. Just refresh the page here. Okay, switch users. I see what's happening. Okay. So view profile. Sign out. Go to application. Click on that down arrow. Click on the first thing. Click clear. Refresh the page. Okay, click create one. Create profile. See stuff you want. Yeah, I use which. Never makes sense. Oh, you didn't refresh.
The back button.
Well, it's because. There you go. So now if you click on, I don't know where you got to, but if you click on that, oh, that's fun. This is much more. Go ahead and click. I think you're still kind of a guest. Click sign out.
Sign in.
Hold on. So go to application. Click on the down arrow for local storage. Clear that. Okay, refresh. And now you can try this. No, hold on. Clear that. Clear. Now refresh.
Now refresh it. Sure.
Yeah, you keep getting the session. Oh, damn it.
It's good. This is how I feel all the time.
Click sign in. Alright. I think we can fix this. It's just because you're not a super user yet. So then I'm gonna go in. Shouldn't be making a guest on this side of the page, but whatever. Alright, so I can go. Oh. What's going on?
Logan's here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'll be on a second. Okay, is there something? Are we deploying stuff or something?
Not that I know of. Brendan might be doing something.
All right. I don't know what they did, but everything is broken.
Update your desktop app is really nice.
Okay, there we go.
The school.stage.
All right. Well, I'll go back and work on this stuff afterwards. You guys should all have accounts now, so I should be able to get you super user accounts, and then you'll be able to play around with things more. But at least you have the pieces. If you look back at the production, the current legacy stuff, yeah.
You said school.stage?
So you can play around with these things if you want to. You can see there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. A lot of this doesn't make it onto the new system. So the things, so for example, all the way to the left, there's a calendar. It says my appointments. We built our own Google Calendar, and it's a not great version of that to create appointments. Spent several months on this. One client uses it sometimes. So if you scroll back up to the top, the second thing is my advisees. This is just a list of the people that they're associated with from an advising perspective, but it only works for legacy schools because the association on new schools is different. So it's largely worthless. They do want something like this. We will go back. It's just going to be a less substantial. We're going to have a thing called relationships that just relate a particular user to another particular user in some way. So you'll have like an admissions advisor relationship, and I will relate an admissions advisor staff member to a set of students. But we don't have that on the new system yet. Third one, the inquiries and applicants. This is going to change relatively dramatically because they don't actually care in general with what we do. We do communication strategies, and what they care about is, of the people who are receiving the communications, are they moving from one audience to another? So are they moving from inquiry to applicant to register to graduate, right? And so we're going to build a generic dashboarding tool set that allows you to see, as we're communicating with students across audiences, how many people are flowing from one to the next as they receive communications. So there's a more advanced version of this coming, but it doesn't exist yet. All right, if you go to the next one, it's form submissions. Form submissions, we built our own form builder, we built a submissions tool. This was actually a huge market contention between myself and the previous CTO. And the reason is primarily if you click into one of those, you can accept or reject, but like this one has, what did it say, like 50 something forms?
Yeah.
So the problem is, once you accept it, you know how you get back to it? You don't.
Oh, you don't.
It just moves you forward and forward and forward and forward and forward and forward. It's kind of like the MTurk thing, where it's like the next one comes up. But the problem is, that works great for MTurk because we just want to give them the newest, most recent thing and get a new opinion on it. But as an advisor who's trying to go through and mark things off, you want to be able to distribute work. Like, so you want to be able to say, hey, Evan, you take the first half, Danny, you take the second half, and be able to say, okay, we're going to meet in the middle. You can't do that with this. You also probably want to be able to say, oh, I need to go back to that particular person's form submissions, and there's no way to do that in the centuries. So again, one customer uses it. We spent a month and a half building it. It's just so in the future, we have different ways of doing this. We're going to most likely build our own form builder again eventually. For the moment, we use Paperform. Paperform is a third-party form building tool. It just builds forms. We can send them out. We can send them out in communications with a link. They can go in, they can fill it out. And then this accept and reject logic will be something that exists, but it'll probably be mostly automated, although there may be some cases where there's a manual like, yeah, that one's certified as good. But in many cases, it's like, okay, they've completed the form, and now that they have answered this to this particular question, I want to now send them a new communication. Okay. So we're not sort of the source of truth for the school in terms of the form submission stuff, although we may do some write-backs with certain schools that want to be able to pull the information. But it's much more forms are used as a logic tool for navigating people to one place or another. The next one is messaging. Messaging is just a rudimentary polling at this point. So it pulls information every 15 seconds or so. There's a concept of direct messages, which is just between an advisor and a student. And then there's department messages, which is between a sort of team. So that might be like the admissions department and a user. So the phone number is the admissions phone number, not any individual user's phone number. Anybody on the admissions team can message into a message between a team and a student. So we have both of those concepts on the new system. It just looks a bit nicer. It just looks a bit nicer, and it uses WebSockets, so that the information is always open and it's pushing through instead of having to pull it every so many seconds. We did a hack here with desktop notifications. So we actually, whenever our system receives a message, we send a push notification to the desktop of the end user to create more of a real-time push aspect. But it is a hack, and sometimes Chrome breaks on their desktop push notifications, and then you're in a bad state for a long time. We've seen that several times. So we're going to be much better with this stuff in the future. All right, so then the next thing is audiences. This is just a way of viewing your audiences and who's in it. We'll have this concept on the new stuff, although the way that you get there will be a little bit more pleasant. And then the next one is card building, which you can click into and see previews, examples of what that is. We are, you have to be patient, buddy. It's not just a gray screen, but you have to wait. So the reason what's happening is that we are loading actually the entire mobile application up in that iframe on the right, and then displaying the HTML inside of that. And the reason is that the way things were built previously, each school has their own brand, so their primary, secondary, tertiary colors, as you guys have played with a little bit, are all different. And so the way that we display it, it's going to change what it looks like, whether it's in the Frank Phillips app or the Browsersport app or whatever. So we tried to pull in the whole mobile app so it looks exactly like it will inside of the mobile app, and that's what you're previewing off on the right. You'll also see if you go in and edit these things that really behind the scenes all they are is HTML. And so that makes it pretty difficult for people to actually be able to fill these things out. You've probably seen a little bit now, card building is much more GUI oriented. You can just click a couple buttons and say, I want this picture, I want this image, etc. on the front, and then on the back you have those components, so you can say I want a header and then a paragraph and then a subheader, but it's much more restricted in what you can do. But we've learned a lot now because we've built hundreds of cards, so we know a lot better what those components are. All right, then you move on to the next piece, which are campaigns. So this is sort of the bread and butter of what we do. Campaigns in this way are also not the best user experience. It's much better than what we used to have internally, so from an internal perspective it's much better, but it's still not nearly as nice as where we're going. Campaigns are really scheduled in some way, blasts of batch messages that we're sending out to a large group of individuals based on their audience membership. So if you go in to edit one of those, you'll see you get to choose whether you want this to run daily. So as audience memberships update, we'll send this daily during certain hours, minutely. So every minute we'll check to see if there's a new person. If there is, we'll send them a message out. You can schedule it for a specific date and time to go out. You can choose who you want to send it from. You can choose the audience you want to send it to. You can choose any exclusion audiences. So you might say, I want to send it to all inquiries, but not those who are veterans, right? So you can include and exclude, and it'll send that message out. It sends an in-app if we think they have the app. It sends it as a text message if we don't think they have the app. All right, and then the next one, auto responses. You can do auto responses off of any campaign, any of those back messages that we're creating. You can also just create an auto response generically on a phone number, so associated with a particular user. And so I just don't think there's any setup there. So you can say anytime I message in to Emily with a message of whatever you put in the inbound messaging. You can use regex there to make it like uppercase, lowercase, case insensitive, etc. Then I want to respond with such and such. The next one is tasks. So tasks are things that sit perpetually in the student app. They're always there so long as they're a member of that audience. As soon as they get cleared out of that audience, they get removed from what they see in the app. We're going to do these things a little bit differently in the new system, but it's very much, the creation is very similar to card creation. So HTML on the back, the front is just a descriptor. The new stuff, you don't have HTML, you have components that you're filling out, but very similar concept. All right, then after that, there's this thing called mobile pages. This is largely just for administrators. It's just random HTML, basically for when they want to show reports or whatever from dashboards. There's a way for them to do that. We shouldn't need this now that we have a better understanding of what the product demands are for advisors and the future stuff, so that won't be there. What's the next? Pages. So this is their actual pages, so now you can actually view them as the advisor. If you click on one of those, it should show some information. And then if you go to the last, that more section, that's going to show the actual, so actually the one that we were just on before we went to the more, so the first one is mobile pages. Those are just random HTML pages that they want to put inside of the mobile app. And then the second one is mobile pages for the advisor, so on the Long Island side of things. And the third one is a view of those pages as the advisor. So it's lots of stuff. That's all going to break down really into 4 categories on the new system. So you're going to have your profile, which then has some additional things depending on your permissions, where you can go and set up integrations and do some of the other things that you have here. You have your inbox, which is the messaging stuff that we saw. You have your stream, which is better seen actually if you go to student.legacy. Student.legacy.fullmeasureed.com. /hope. Something similar to that. I always forget exactly. Dang it. Hope_production.
What is it?
Hope_production.
So student.legacy.fullmeasureed.com/hope_production. Okay. So this is the student side of things. You want to turn it into the mobile view because they only ever see it as a mobile view. They never actually see it on the internet like this. If you click continuous guest, you'll see this is the feed experience. So in the new system, there's a thing called stream that will replace this, and then there's tasks. Okay. So in the new system, we have stream, feed, stream is feed, stream, tasks, inbox, contacts, which is just a way to search, and then profile. Okay, so from a student perspective, things are really pretty simple. You have your stream of cards, which is what you're looking at there. You have your tasks that you need to complete, which is also available on the side menu. You probably don't have any, but it says My Tasks. You have your inbox, which is your messaging platform. You have your contacts, which is just searching for people that you might want to communicate with. So from the student side, you're searching for advisors. From the advisor side, you're searching for students or advisors. And then you have your profile. The profile has information about you, extra data elements that they might want to show to advisors, or that's also where you can say, I want to add Google Auth, or I want to set my preferences for whether I receive text messages and those types of things.
Wait, where is this?
So this is on the new things. So stream, what you're looking at, you're looking at all legacy stuff right now. So
I'm at the wrong place?
No, it's okay. So what I'm saying is, so stream, if you go back to the original page you were on, it's called My Feed, I think. Yeah, home. Okay. So home is what we used to call it. It also is a home. If you look at the app.stage, you can't because it's all broken, but you can actually see there's a home.
Okay.
And there's the equivalent.
Okay.
That is stream. There's
Mhm.
tasks, which in the old stuff is called my tasks. On the new stuff, there's a checkbox in the clipboard. There's inbox, which on the old stuff says my messages, and the new stuff looks like an inbox. There's contact search, which on the old stuff for the student side there isn't one. From the staff side, it's just the little search boxes at the top of most of the pages. You can search for people. And then there's profile, which on the old stuff just has a few things like your phone number and that type of thing. On the new stuff, we'll have that as well, but also has other things that you're permitted to do. So so you can see there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons here, menu items, highest level menu items. On the old stuff, if you look at the advisor side of things, there's a whole lot more. Even honestly, if you look at the student side, there's so many more of options. Everything is going to be translated to either be removed entirely, so that we don't need it anymore, or it'll be something that's inside of one of these 5 options. In many cases, the place that it ends up going is to the profile. So if I show you my profile, as a super user, you can see things like I can control so I can control organizations. I can create new organizations from here. I can control system configuration, turning things on and off. I can control mobile app configuration. I can set up accounts, so give people permissions. I can
So
create,
this is because you are
a super user.
Okay.
So students won't have any of these things.
Right.
There's also categories and content and tasks. Categories are just they're both a permissioning and a categorization scheme to put tasks and content inside of. So it's like for admissions, I'm going to have certain content and tasks. For funding, I'm going to have certain contents and tasks, and we can then permit different users. So people in the funding department can mess with the content for funding, and people in admissions can deal with the stuff for admissions. And those then end up being something that you can access from your stream. So the stream is now not only personalized information, but you can also search within different content areas to be able to see additional pieces of information. Okay. So anyway, that's a very fast. Here's all the things that we do and we care about. There's several legacy things like the My Plan that you saw there. All that My Plan stuff is going away. So that was careers and funding and programs. We don't do that anymore. That was a large part of our system for a while, so there are several organizations that still use those things, but they will be going away. We might bring aspects of them back in the future, but they're not things that we're selling currently. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Unfortunately, I gotta go because I'm a little late for this other meeting,
Okay.
but hopefully that starts to introduce you guys to